My hair looks absolutely crazy, but I don't care. Today, we're talking about roommates, and you might be wondering, Ryan, why do you have the qualification to talk about roommates? Like, we've only seen you living alone. Well, actually, I had a pretty unique experience living with roommates back when I lived in New York, and I saw someone else talking about their roommate experience, and I was like, oh my God, that is a good story because I have an extensive history. Not extensive, but like I lived with roommates for like 3 years when I lived in New York, and it was not fun. It was not fun at all. And I very much came to the realization that, oh, by the way, I'm in Paris right now. That's why the background is like this. I don't know if anyone only watches my podcast, but I just uploaded a YouTube video saying that I'm in Paris. I'm here for a month, potentially a little bit longer, but right now I'm only here for a month. And I might be traveling within Europe. I'm not too sure yet. Kind of just vibing right now. And I said the same on TikTok. So, but if you only watch my podcast, yes, that's the explanation. I'm in Paris right now. But anyway, I have experience with roommates and I did not like it. I did not like it like at all. I very much came to realize that I love living alone. Like I'm very much somebody who does not like people stepping into their space. I don't like stepping into other people's space. I don't even really like having friends over at my apartment that much just because I'm like really, I think there's definitely some diagnoses to be done for me that I have not sought out. Sorry, I burped. There's definitely diagnoses that I have not sought out, but I know that I need to get them because whenever I have people over at my like apartment or wherever, I am just like the only thing I'm conscious of is how they're feeling and if they're comfortable and if they're making like some sort of mess in my apartment, like what I'm gonna have to clean up afterwards and things that I care about in my apartment, like whatever. Anyway, I love living alone. It's literally the best thing I've done. And I feel very, very lucky living in Japan because in Japan, pretty much most people live alone at my age. Like you don't really get roommates. I know a few handful of people who did a roommate situation. Those didn't go well. But I do know a few people who did a roommate situation in Japan. But for the most part, everyone just lives alone. It's a lot cheaper to live alone. Like my first apartment in Japan was like $480 a month. So very, very affordable. But once upon a time, Ryan lived in New York City, where I went to college for 3 years. And when I first went to college there, I lived in a dorm. And mind you, this is a private school, so the dorm was like pretty nice, like very nice. However, I lived with 5 other people in one dorm. It was apartment style, like 2 different bedrooms and a kitchen and 2 bathrooms, which is like very lucky, very generous on the dorm department. But I originally had planned to only live with 3 other people. And how this happened is I went on the Facebook group. This is like 2019. And I got accepted into the school that I wanted to go to in New York. And everyone kind of goes on this Facebook page for accepted students. Everyone to kind of like me, exchange Instagram, like all that stupid stuff. And I guess not stupid. Like I clearly participated in it. And I found what would become my roommate on this Facebook page. So me being 17 and crazy, which I still am, I'm just not 17 anymore. Me being 17 and crazy, I flew all the way to Connecticut to visit. Actually, I flew to New York and then she drove from Connecticut to pick me up in New York. And then we went to Connecticut because she was from Connecticut. I flew there and stayed with her for a few days. We got to like meet each other and whatnot, whatever. And it went really well. Like we got along perfectly. Like everything was fine. And we were like, oh my God, this is great. Like let's dorm together officially. So we decided to live together. However, we needed 2 more people and I had like gone back to Virginia at this point, but because I'm from Virginia, but we needed 2 more people to live with us. So we scrambled together 2 more people somehow. I don't even remember how that happened, but like we found 2 people that we got along with. We liked. We didn't like go and like meet them, but like we found them on like Instagram or something. I think it was Instagram. And we really liked them. So we decided to live together, to room with them. Should I sit closer to the camera? I don't know if people watch this like only audio or if they watch it like with the video, but sorry, I'm like adjusting. But We found these two people and we decided, great, we're a group of four. We're gonna get like a 4 room because that was like the most common room in like our dorm building. And this is also like the tallest dorm building in the world. The whole building is like 56 floors, but I think my dorm went up to like 36 or something. And so you were like super lucky if you got to live on like the 36th floor or like one of the high floors because it's like really nice and like you get a great view, like whatever, of New York. And so we get around to like making the application for our dorm, and you have to make this agreement since I was a boy. And my school is like very like progressive, so they allow like boys and girls to live together in the dorm. But the problem is you have to like sign this agreement that you're okay with living with other boys. And I was okay with living with other girls. So we all signed the agreement and we submit our dorm application. Dorm placement day comes and we got placed with 2 random boys that we have never heard of. We did not know. So immediately we all like freaked out, like, oh my God, we have to live, because you can't change this. You literally have to like go through with it. And we were like, oh my God, like we are literally stuck living with 2 random guys. And we found out our dorm. Move-in day comes. We still hadn't really talked to these like 2 guys, even online. But move-in day comes and we all move in. It's like 2 separate bedrooms. And I had gotten placed with the 2 girls and one of my friends had gotten placed with the 2 boys. I took one for the team and bit the bullet and I was like, okay, I'm going to live with the 2 random guys because I don't want like my friend being a girl having to live with 2 random guys in the same room. So I was like, okay, I'll just live there. And so I did. However, luckily, thank God, these 2 guys, these 2 boys they were queer. If they were straight, it would have been a completely different situation. But it was very nice. Like literally everyone at that school is queer. So it made sense. But it was definitely interesting to say the least. Like these 2, they were on a completely different side of the spectrum than I was. And those 2 boys like got along quite well, but I kind of just kept to myself on the other side of the room. Like I just like knew that we wouldn't get along. They kind of knew that. We just like talked when we needed to, or like when it was fun and had like nothing else to do. But it wasn't like we were going out of our way to like hang out. Like literally we never hung out with them. Me and the 3 other girls, we never hung out with them. They hung out with other people, like whatever. And so it just kind of became this like established thing in the room for the course of a year where like we didn't get along. And there were so many like weird instances with them. Like one of them literally said well, he didn't say, like he didn't talk. He literally did not talk for an entire month. So when we all kind of like confronted him like, hey, like why have you been so quiet? Like we want to talk to you, like whatever. He was just like, I just get like so sad around my birthday. And we were like, who says that? Like, who says that still? Like, pick me. You're literally a fucking pick me. But, sorry, I don't want to be mean. And also I'm like really nervous that anybody that like I roomed with is going to like watch this. And I feel like they will. So I'm kind of scared. But I'm keeping everything anonymous and also just being like very honest and third party view about everything. I'm going to try to be. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that, but I'm going to try to be. So yeah, it was like a weird year of living with these people. And also the 2 other girls that we decided to live with, like one of them I became absolute like best friends with, and it like went really well. I was so lucky I had her because like she lived in the girls' room. So literally every day I would just go and sit in her room for basically the entire day. And then there was the other girl who I don't know how to like say this nicely, but she was very, very, very sheltered from like her parents and had like just moved to New York City, and her parents really, really babied her. So like she had like a credit card to basically spend on absolutely anything, and she would go to Soul Cycle every day, and she would take Ubers like every single day, like the shortest distances, just because her parents thought like New York was the most like dangerous place, which it can be. But she was like unjustly taking these Ubers just because she had like, I mean, more power to her. Like, honestly, like if I had that money, I would do that too. Or if I had my parents' money like that, I'd probably do the same thing. But she had no actual like individual experience. So she was like, I don't know, we just didn't get along. We did get along actually. We were very nice to each other. We would hang out because it was like a group setting, but I never hung out with her like one on one. So that was like kind of weird. And then drama kind of started with like my OG roommate, because I don't know if it was because I became friends with someone else. Like I was like best friends with the other girl, and I think that she got a little bit like a little bit like jealous about it, but obviously there were other problems behind that as well. And we were getting into like arguments here and there, and yeah, a lot happened. And then COVID happened. That's one of the things. COVID happened. So everybody had to like very abruptly move out of the dorms. Mind you, we had to literally leave all of our stuff there as we left because everyone left. And then that's when we were told that we weren't allowed to come back. Was literally like a week after everyone had already left, and everyone was kind of looking at it as like a spring break type of thing, like early spring break. So I had gone to the beach and visited my grandmother because I hadn't seen her in a while, and she lives at the beach. I was like, I'm going to get such a cute tan, like, and I'm going to come back to New York all tanned in the winter, like whatever. And so, while I was there, they shut down the dorms. We weren't allowed to go back to the dorms. And that was that. And so, but I wanted to go back to New York City, like as soon as I fucking could. Like I did not want to stay I was in South Carolina at the time, nor did I want to stay in Virginia. I was like, I need to go back to New York, but I couldn't live in the dorm. So most of our roommates after COVID did not end up moving back to New York City. Like they either dropped out of school or they transferred schools because their life changed, like whatever. And even my best friend, she was from New Jersey, and she moved to, back to New Jersey, and she never came back to New York. So it was like me and my OG roommate who were really the only people who like wanted to move back. Also, I feel like I didn't talk enough about like the boys that I had to live with. It was really fucking strange. Like, let me just go back to that for a minute. Like, one of them literally slept with their alarm clock on their stomach and stared at the ceiling with their blanket like perfectly laid out on top of them every single night. Like, literally every single night. And the other one had Gilmore Girls, My Little Pony, Pink Everything, Joe Jonas poster like all over the walls. And it was like the weirdest thing ever, like the weirdest combo. It was like literally he was like everything was pink. It was like frenemies. Like he was everything was pink, and the other guy was everything was just all black and like very simpleton. And it was just such a strange experience. All respect to them. We just like didn't get along. I'm just speaking from like my experience. It was weird. That's it. And so I wanted to move back to New York. This is after COVID, not after, but like during COVID. And my roommate also wanted to move back to New York. We wanted to finish our degrees in New York, like whatever. So we decided that we were going to get an apartment together in New York because we were each other's basically only option. And it also worked out really great for me because in New York, your parents have to make so much money to co-sign on an apartment for you. They have to make 80 times the rent to live there. And obviously my parent did not make that much money. So I had literally no option to get an apartment. And if you don't have that, then like you're really screwed. So what I was able to do was my OG roommate was extremely wealthy, like the most wealthy out of, I think, anyone I've ever met. Well, at least her parents were. And I'm talking like lottery level wealth. And so it was like really good for me because I was like, okay, well, she said that her dad would be the guarantor for our apartment, which is like the cosigner. And I was like, great, like whatever. So while I'm in Virginia, she's like, I'm doing like so much research to like try to find us a really good apartment, like good location, whatever. Just like putting in a lot of effort, and she really wasn't. And I guess we're just like different that way. Like I get really excited about like moving, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to do like as much research as I can to find like the best possible outcome. And she was like wanting to do everything like last minute, not really paying attention to it. So one day she just like goes into the city, and cause she's in Connecticut, so she could just like drive there. And, she just goes into the city, and she's touring apartments, and I didn't even really like know that she was doing this. And she like calls me and FaceTimes me like while she's at these apartments, which I'm like, okay, great. Like whatever. I guess I just like won't be there, which I really couldn't because it was like COVID, things were difficult, like whatever. And she shows me these apartments on FaceTime, and she looks at the last one. She had shown me this apartment, and I wanted a different one, and she really wanted this one. but she kind of like made me go with the last one that we wanted because like I basically just did not have a say in like what it was because her dad was like the guarantor, and I kind of just like brushed that off, and I was like, I didn't fight about it. I was just like, okay, like whatever, I will live there. I need an apartment in New York. I'm not going to be like picky about it, especially when I'm not bringing anything to the table. Obviously I'm paying like my rent, like my portion of the rent, but I didn't have like the guarantor. I wasn't touring the apartments. I wasn't there to do it. So like I was like, okay, whatever, we'll let that slide. So we end up getting the apartment. I was like so excited. Like my first apartment in New York. It was like so cute. Like I really loved it at the time, even though like I wanted the other one more. But I moved in literally the first day we were able to move in, and I was so excited. I moved in with like one suitcase. I had nothing. I went to Target and I bought an air mattress and like all the necessities and everything. Y'all, I'm so sorry. There's something going on with my camera, so I'm using my MacBook camera right now. I don't know. Honestly, it's kind of cute. It's kind of a vibe, but please bear with. Like, I don't know why my camera will literally not stop turning off while I'm filming, and it's really pissing me off. So we just have to like move to my MacBook. Anyway, so I move into the first apartment that we have in New York, and we ended up living in this apartment for literally 2 years. Like that's a really long time, the longest I think I ever lived in any of my apartments. And at first it was literally so fun. Like I had the whole apartment to myself like the entire summer because she did not move in until like after summer, because she wanted to like stay back home. She wanted to live with her live back home and like be with her friends from back home and like whatever, which is fine. But there was a problem because she was sending all of her furniture, and she was sending her bed, her desk, like we got like a TV and a couch for the living room that she had actually paid for, which I was like so thankful for and like so happy about. And so all of that was coming, especially like the bed thing. This is what like pissed me off. All of that came while she wasn't there, and we lived on the 4th floor of a walk-up, which means we had no elevator. No fucking elevator. So I had to carry up everything that she was sending. And it wasn't just the bed. It was a lot of packages. And this was a repeat habit because she would go home very frequently and packages would come and I would have to deal with them. I would have to drag them up the stairs, and it was like, it didn't even matter. Like I just like did it. And it was a lot of work. And then I remember when she got the bed, like I had to like take it out of the box and everything and like literally set it up for her. On top of that, I built like all of the furniture in our apartment. I built her bed. Literally did like basically everything for her. And when she arrived, it was like we already had everything kind of like set up for us. I never really said anything about it though, because I was just like, okay, like whatever. You got like the couch and the TV, cool. All right. So after we moved in, that was it. Like she had gotten the couch and the TV, and past that, like literally the entire 2 years, she never got like anything else that we needed, down to toilet paper and paper towels. And I don't want to say never, because she did like sometimes, but I was always buying them. And mind you, I was broke like all the time. Meanwhile, she had like daddy's money like all the time and could like spend it basically, not whenever she wanted, but like we'll get into that later. I was broke and I was working all the time, and like I was working at like barista jobs. Where else did I work? I worked at Urban Outfitters when I lived in New York. I always had a job that I was working, and I was spending my money. Like it was all just me, like spending money on things we needed for this apartment. And in New York, we have this thing called stooping, which is where you get like basically trash that people throw away, but it's like furniture. And obviously you like check it beforehand and make sure it's like good and okay. But like literally everyone just throws their furniture out on the street. So a lot of the time you can find like really good high quality things. And we lived in the Upper East Side, so there was like a lot of good stuff to be found. So I found quite the amount of things off of just from stooping, like finding things on the street, and I was putting in the effort to bring them home. Obviously, like 90% of the time I was like asking her if she was okay with it. 10% of the time it was like time sensitive, and I was like, okay, like we need this. I'm just not going to ask her. I don't have the time. Like I need to get it right now, like whatever. So that happened, but she would not get anything for our apartment, and I was just like furnishing the entire place and like making it cute, like doing everything I can. But half the time she would have a problem with it. And I still to this day, like, don't know why. Like, she always had a problem with like everything I was trying to do to like better our apartment. And we would get into these arguments that would literally become so much therapy speak, because she had like this like extensive history with like therapy. And she would just like basically speak to me as if she was like a therapist, and just like tell me, oh, well, my therapist told me like X, Y, and Z, which like, there's some respect there. Like, I understand, like, you have your needs. There are things that like I need to like pay attention to, like whatever. But every single time it just turned into like this therapy speak, and it just wasn't necessary. It just wasn't necessary. I'm sorry. But for somebody who's like putting in so much work to like make our apartment better and like furnish it and actually do something with it, there should be like no complaints there, because she was not doing anything to try to like furnish our apartment. Time goes on. On top of that, she would not clean absolutely anything. She never cleaned. I would deep clean the apartment all the time, and it wouldn't be because of me. I would have to deep clean it because of her, especially the bathroom, because she would like get her products everywhere. And she like literally never vacuumed once. She never mopped once. She never like scrubbed anything down. I would go in the kitchen and the sink would be like filled with dishes for days. There would be food on the kitchen counters all the time. And we had these like white kitchen counters, so it was like very obvious whenever anything was on it. And it would irritate the fuck out of me like all the time, because she just like would not take care of our apartment like at all. And I'm someone who's very like clean and neat and likes to keep everything very pristine. And I like to deep clean as much as I can. And so that's what I was like doing consistently throughout the apartment, because I would get in eras where I would literally try so hard to like leave things dirty for a while just so she could like put in the effort to like, you know, clean up, and it just wouldn't happen. And to a point where I would literally just have to like do it myself, and there was no acknowledgement there. So eventually I just became a like full-time maid essentially. Like, I was literally her maid, and it got so annoying, and I ended up getting like just so fed up. And later into us living together, like, mind you, this is over 2 years, and later into us living together, I had just like had enough, and we were like getting so angry at each other, and we were constantly fighting, and we were always having issues basically. And it got to a point where we had this conversation where we decided we just like did not want to live together. And I was like, okay. And she was like, okay, my dad will cover the rest of the rent if you want to move out. And I was like, okay, that's literally perfect. Like, I don't care. Like, I need to get out of here. So I ended up moving to Virginia, like Richmond, Virginia, which is another story. But the problem was here. This is like the fucking drama. She had told me that I could move out and her dad would pay the rest of the rent, right? Which we only had like, I think 3 months left on our lease or something. And so, and mind you, they are extremely wealthy. So, and she's the one who proposed this idea. So I was like, okay, like, if you want to pay like the rest of the rent, like, I will gladly leave, like, whatever. You can have my room, make it your studio, make it your closet. Like, I don't care. You can have it. So I had like gone through the process of like looking at apartments. Eventually I was out of town, and I told my roommate, I was like, hey, I found an apartment. I'm planning on moving in like this day, like whatever. And she was like, wait, I think you should talk to my dad first. And I was like, what? And so I had texted him and let him know what was going on. And he calls me. And I guess like she had previously talked to him as well, like maybe 5 minutes before I called him. And he calls me with literally so much anger, like filled with rage. And mind you, this is a person that I had a very good relationship with. Like, but aside from her, I had a very good relationship with this guy. I had so much respect for him. Like, we had a great relationship. We got along very well. Like, she would take our like friend group back home to her house, or back to, where would we go? We'd go to Rhode Island, because she had a house in Rhode Island. And I think we went there like twice. And so I was able to meet her dad like pretty frequently, and we grew like a very good like relationship, and it was almost like a fatherly kind of relationship, because I do not have a dad. And it was great. Like, I really like adored him. Like, I loved him. And so for him to like call me and be like so aggressive and upfront, and have this like attitude towards me was a first of all, and I was just extremely like taken back and shocked by it. I was like, this is really strange. And so I told him on the phone, I was like, your daughter literally told me that all of this was okay. Like, yeah, maybe I should have like gone through you first about all of this, but I was very much given like I am in the clear to do this. So I like was just like really taken back by everything. And so by the end of the phone call, we had like agreed that he could just have like my security deposit, and yeah, they would pay like the rest of the rent. And I was like, at the end of the phone call, he had like gotten really nice too, and he was like, okay, like whatever. And I was like, this is like really, really weird. And so that's what we agreed on. And I ended up coming back to New York, and I did get this apartment in Virginia, which is another story. And I had moved out. I rented a car to drive everything that I had, like in this one not big enough car. And I'd collected a lot of stuff at this point. So I had to pack this car from floor to ceiling to move it down to Virginia. And so that's exactly what I did. I packed all of my stuff in one morning, and I got up and I fucking left, like just out of nowhere. And I mean, she knew I was leaving, but she pretended that she was asleep the entire time so that she wouldn't have to help me move out. Also, I want to explain another story. One time I wanted to get this washing machine because, fun fact, in New York, you do not have a washer and dryer. And luckily we did have this place called a wash and fold, which is where they do your laundry for you, but it's very expensive. Like, I'm talking like $15 every time you do your laundry. Sorry, I'm hiccuping. But she would do that, and I would do that because it was on the first floor of our apartment building. So it was like pretty convenient, but it was very expensive. So I had proposed that we bought this thing that I found on TikTok, which was this like washer, and it was like becoming this like new thing that people were doing in New York. And it was just this little like portable like washer thing that had a spin dryer in it as well. And so I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to do this. And cause it was like $100 or something. And I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to stop paying $15 for every time I do my laundry. I'm just going to save like so much money. And I'd asked her about it because obviously it's like a new machine like in our apartment, and we didn't have much space for it. It would either go in like the bathroom or the hallway or the closet or something. And she was not down for it. Like, she did not want it in our apartment. And I was like, okay, you have to understand, like, this is out of convenience for you. Like, you are just able to pay so much money for laundry because it's not your money. Like, this is my money. I have to pay for this. And I also told her, I was like, oh, you can use this too. Like, I will literally just like let you use it. You'll save so much money on laundry, like whatever. And she was not having it. She did not want to have this like thing in our apartment, which part of me understands because I didn't really want it in our apartment, but I was like, oh, if it's gonna like save me like a shit ton of money, then like I will make that sacrifice. She was not willing to make that sacrifice. But she ended up allowing me to get this washing machine. Thank God. I saved so much money because of this washing machine. And she never used it like the entire time. She just kept paying. She literally just kept paying for her laundry to be done for her. I guess she had that luxury. I did not. And it ended up being stored in the closet anyway all the time. So like she never even saw it. So it wasn't even an issue. It was literally just a non-issue. So that was a weird thing. And there were just many instances just like that over time where it was like a privilege thing where she had the privilege to like say no to something that I needed, or just like, I don't know. You can imagine like the type of experiences you go through living with someone who's like that privileged, whereas I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Like, I literally came from nothing and she had everything. So it was like very weird. Also, she worked at her dad's company, but like, first of all, that's one thing, like nepotism, that's literally nepotism. And second of all, she got paid to work at this company, but she never worked. Like, she got paid an entire salary to work at this company, but she did not work there. Like, I never saw her once ever working. And so it was like so strange that she was getting a salary paycheck for not working at all. And so it just like became this thing. And I just like grew so much like resentment, and I lost so much like respect for her because she just like was not being like a decent person to me, and just a decent person in general, in my opinion. And so, yeah, back to when I was moving out, she had pretended that she was asleep because I could hear her in her room, but she had pretended that she was asleep. And this was also like literally the afternoon, so I knew she was awake, so that she wouldn't have to help me, so that she literally would not have to help me move out. Because that's one thing, she never wanted to help me with literally anything. I was building all the furniture. I was doing everything for our apartment. Like, I never got help with literally anything. So I knew that's why she was not coming out of her room. And so I just left and I said goodbye. And that was the last I ever, no, I didn't say goodbye. I don't know why I said that. I said goodbye to the apartment. And that was the last I ever heard of her. Like, I never spoke to her again. We never texted. We never called. We never spoke ever again. And so suddenly this like 3-year long like friendship, mind you, tumultuous friendship, but this 3-year long friendship was just over and never heard from again. And we don't follow each other in anything anymore. And I still have never heard from her. Like, it's really weird. But yeah, that just happened. I think we were both just like really ready to like move on with our lives and never speak to each other like ever again after that. And I knew I wasn't coming to New York. I wasn't coming back to New York like anytime soon. So I was like, okay, this is over. Like, we do not need to associate with each other like ever again. And that's exactly what happened. And ever since then, I've never had to live with anyone ever again. I will say like, oh my God, these just keep coming up. But one time we had gotten to an argument and she pulled I can't believe I'm going to say this, but she pulled a, after everything my family and I has done for you card, just because her dad was the co-signer for our apartment, which is quite normal. Like, normally, like, if you have roommates in New York, one friend, like normally the richest friend, is going to pull through with their parent to be the co-signer. Like, that's always how it goes. And so that's what we did. And so she like used that above me. And also like, obviously her, we got to like vacation because of her dad. And also we went to LA one time and her dad had like paid for my plane ticket, which I felt uncomfortable with. And I told them that I could pay for my own plane ticket. And they literally insisted that they paid for my plane ticket, which was very nice of them. And I was like so grateful for that. I was like, oh my God, like I could not have afforded this trip in LA like on my own, because she had like, her dad had a house in LA and that's like the whole reason we were there. Mind you, it was Selena Gomez's old house that we were literally staying in. Like, literally so fucking weird to say to this day. Like, I stayed in Selena Gomez's old house in LA, and that just kind of tells you how wealthy they are. But yeah, I was like extremely grateful for that experience. But then she like used it above me, which I knew was going to happen one day because that's the type of person she was. And she did, and she used it against me. And yeah, that's just like a really interesting part of the story to like kind of tell you a lot about like what happened over the course of 2 years in this apartment. Anyway, yeah, never lived with anyone ever again. I forgot where I was like 5 minutes ago with that, but I never lived with anyone ever again. She knew I wasn't coming back to New York, so that's what happened. And I moved to Japan where I was able to live alone, and I plan to live alone for like as long as I can, unless I live with like my partner or something. Yeah, I mean, this was just like a really, really bad roommate experience. And I don't know if that's alone is just what made me like never want to live with roommates ever again. But, and I think if I had lived with like my best friend of the time, like in New York, it would have gone so much differently. Like maybe I would even still live in New York because I would have had like such a great experience living with her. But living with this roommate was just like, we just like did not get along as roommates. And I think a lot of people will not get along with roommates. And I don't want to say like all this to just like scare you for living with anyone, because I think it's really just like you're flipping a coin. Like, you're either going to get along like extremely well, or you're not going to get along. You're not going to get along like at all. And I don't think there's really any middle ground. It's one or the other. Like, you love each other or you hate each other, and that's all it is. So don't let this influence your decision about like living with roommates, because at the end of the day, like, it's something that you have to do. Well, a lot of people have to do. Like, if you're a student, you have to live with roommates, like at least like your first year. And also through that, like, you meet so many people, you get like a friend group, like whatever. So there are a lot of upsides to having roommates, and I don't regret like any of my decisions or any of like the experiences that I've had, because I've grown and I've learned so much from them. So you kind of just have to like go into it with like an open mind and yeah, just like have an open mind with having roommates. Like even if it's like a really bad experience, like that's a learning experience, and that'll tell you. You kind of just have to have like these learning experiences to like tell you that like later on you don't want to live with like this type of person, or you don't want to live with any person at all, and you just want to live alone. But like to have that experience is valuable in itself, because you can just like tell yourself, I learned from this, I'm moving on, let's start from the scratch board again. That's just like what happens. And that's what happened with me. Like I moved to Richmond with literally nothing, like just at the scratch board again. And I ended up living in Japan, like alone. So if you want to live with roommates, do it. I challenge you. Mine was definitely not like a great experience, honestly, like a horror experience. And I was literally miserable for like 2 years. But, and it honestly did like create my entire experience in New York. Like I hated living there just because I lived with her. And now I'm like kind of backtracking. I'm like, wait, like, should I have lived with her? Like, I don't know if it was worth it. No, everything's meant to be. Everything's meant to happen for a reason. I ended up living in Japan all because of this. So that's why I moved to Japan kind of also as well. Yeah. Okay. This is like way longer than 30 minutes. So I'm going to stop this now. I'm kind of like my mind is like really scrambled with this topic now. And so I need to like go. I'm in Paris and I need to like go get a croissant and like, and a coffee and sit down at a cafe and like clear my head. So yeah, I love you so much. I love you if you made it to the end as well. Make sure to subscribe. This is my podcast that still does not have a name. Yeah. Okay. I don't know how to end this one. Like, this is weird. Okay. I'm just going to end it. Bye.